What's going on, golf fans? It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS fades and sleepers for this week's AT&T Byron Nelson. Gonna break down some of the ownership game theory perspective for some of the larger field contests this week, and with our sleepers, a few of the lower owned, underhyped plays that I think you might be able to get to for some much needed ownership leverage up top. And then on the flip side, we've got our fades, which are the guys being a little bit oversteamed, right? Guys getting, at least in my opinion, too much attention for the large field contests that you might want to consider avoiding when it comes to your personal portfolio. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this video started. And our first fade, which we're going to start with here, we might be flying a little bit too close to the sun. It's going to be one of the more dangerous fades I've ever made, in at least on this channel, for quite some time. Fading Scotty Scheffler. So last time we had this mega chalk, it was a John Rahm, Tony Finau. I told you guys to play both of them. They both smashed, right? Finished in first and second place. Well, this time, I think I'm taking the field approach. We've got Scotty Scheffler after the Spieth withdrawal, some of the other top-end players not impressing all too much. 45.7% when it comes to his ownership, which is borderline outrageous. If you're going to get leverage there, go after that 2x roll, well, you're probably going to have to lock him in your set of 150. And when you've got a whole range here of players that I think, especially, 2-3 of them that are especially worth taking shots on, it's just, at least from the game theory perspective, a relatively straightforward fade for me. Now, it doesn't mean you have to go out there and avoid him. It's just that if you're going to play Scotty Scheffler this week, I would recommend locking him, playing him in every single lineup that you're going with. And if you're avoiding him, you're trying to get under the field, I would probably fade him. Now, it's worth noting that you could take the 50% approach, match the field, and go that way. The issue with that is that you have a hard time getting leverage to some of these guys in the 9K range. You can do it, especially if you're playing a larger set of lineups, I'd say like 50 plus lineups, then doing like a 50% Scotty Scheffler is something that's viable. If you're playing 150 lineups, it's even more so viable. So it's just a calculated fade that I'm making because there are a few holes in Scotty's game that I think might cause him a little bit of trouble here. So let's start with the putting, right? On bent grass in general, he has not been the best putter of late. So if we zoom out a little bit, even though he has multiple wins over the last 36 rounds, you can see that he's a slight loser on the greens. At a course that surrendered 26, 28 under par as winners, its first two iterations, that could be problematic, right? You're gonna have to gain on the greens to go out there and finish in the top 5 or win this golf tournament. It's not that that's impossible, it's just that Scotty Scheffler has not been very consistent on the greens. Now, them taking it from a par 72 down to a par 71, I think helps Scotty's case, right? That's just one less quote-unquote free birdie that the field is going to have. Furthermore, just putting emphasis on the ball striking. But he's $11,900, and he's nearly owned in half your lineups. And in large single entries, right, higher dollar single entries, probably the better way to put it, he's going to be 50, maybe 55, 60% owned. He's going to be outrageously chalky, something we don't see very often out there. I mean, even when there's huge discrepancies when it comes to the talent level, given his track record in Texas, the fact that he's your world number 2 right now, there's going to be a lot of people that play Scotty Scheffler. So I'm taking that calculated fade. A few other things to note, when he's played here is not really gone well. You can see he finished in 47th and then 15th the 2 years. It was here at TPC Craig Ranch, so that's not really ideal. And the recent form's outrageous, right? I mean, like 11th, 10th, but 11th and 10th wouldn't get it done at this price tag in this sort of field. So I think that there is an avenue for him going out there and busting. It's not all that likely. There's a reason why he's the clear favorite. There's a reason why he's going to be owned at 50% of lineups. But when I'm playing the long game, I'm trying to get that game theory involved with my lineups. I'm trying to get leverage to the field. It's going to lead me away from a Scotty Scheffler. So we'll talk about some of the pivots, right? I already like Terrell Hatton. You guys probably saw that in my core plays video. But we'll talk about Hideki Matsuyama a little bit later on as one of the sleeper plays that you might want to consider as a pivot. But our next fade is going to be Steven Yeager, and I wanted to play Steven Yeager this week, and it's worth noting that this PM wave, you can see over here I have the tee time waves on the spreadsheet this time around. The PM wave looks like it's getting the short end of the stick. Now, I say seems like it because there is a threat of thunderstorms both on Thursday night and then Friday AM as of right now. There's a slight chance of thunderstorms. If there's any sort of delay, that could throw off a lot of these weather edges, but if the thunderstorms don't cause any sort of delays, Undoubtedly tomorrow, the morning wave is going to have the best conditions. I think every site can agree on that, and we're within 24 hours of that now. So these forecasts are starting to get more and more accurate. They're calling for sub 10 mile an hour winds for all of the AM hours, and then tomorrow afternoon, somewhere in that 12 to 18 mile an hour range when it comes to your sustained winds, and then wind gusts to 20 to 30. So you're looking at, one wave that's going to be in next to ideal conditions, and then one where it's getting a little bit dicey out there, and then most sites are calling for it to be really flat on Friday. Now we're over a day out from that, so the forecasts aren't going to be completely accurate, which is why I say it seems like they're going to get the short end of the stick. But as of right now, right, guys like Steven Yeager, guys like Scotty Scheffler, right? I didn't even mention that, but the Scotty Scheffler fade are going to be playing in slightly harder conditions tomorrow. We know that for a fact. Whether that makes a huge impact on your poll or not, it's going to make a pretty large impact on my poll this week. It's something to consider when somebody's going to get chalky like a Steven Yeager, right? He's 17.5% owned. He's clearly the highest owned player in this range. I mean, even the guys that are getting a little bit of steam, like let's say an Adam Hadman comes to mind. There's a lot of people that are going to be playing Adam Hadman this week, myself included. He's only like 10-11% owned, right? He's clearly lower owned than somebody like a Yeager. You have to go the whole way up to somebody like a Matt Kuchar before you start to get in the same sort of stratosphere. Everyone from a Seamus Power down to even like a Tom Hoge here is significantly lower owned than a Yeager. So that's why I'm pointing him out here as a fade. It's not that I don't believe in this skill set. He can make bunches of birdies. He's a pretty good long iron player as well. But when he's going to be twice as owned, somebody like an Aaron Wise right against him, an Aaron Wise long-term much better player than a Steven Yeager. Also, Wise is going to have the AM conditions. Well, I'm going to make that pivot all day. And, an Adam Hadman fits that description. I think he's pretty much the same sort of player as a Yeager. And if he's going to be lower owned and in the better conditions, then I'm just going to side in that direction. So it's no offense to Yeager, right? No offense to Scotty Scheffler, right? World-class player, probably the best player in the world when he's got his flat stick working, but I'm going to be hoping that he's not making a bunch of those birdies, that the flat stick maybe holds him back. It's the same thing with Yeager, elite level ball striker, but can be extremely inconsistent with the flat stick. So I prefer to take him when he's relatively low owned, right, 10% owned or less. I like to take him when he's in the ideal conditions, right, playing in the AM wave would be what we're looking for this time around. And neither of those two things are the case. So I'm going to try and stay away from those two and consider these sleeper plays as a few pivots. So we'll start with Hideki. He's going way under owned. I mean, there's a little bit of late steam on him. I've heard a few people say like, oh, Hideki's a really good GBP play. But the fact of the matter is, he's coming off of some sort of rehab over there in Japan, getting work done on the neck, the back area, to try and make sure that he's comfortable for the PGA Championship. And there's going to be people that just can't play Hideki, right? They see those injury concerns, they go, oh, I can't invest into that sort of player. So you can see I have him at 13.9%. A few other projections have him closer to 20%, but they all started and all opened up his ownership projections this week close to like 11-12% because of that narrative. And I know a few people are coming around on him, even guys like Pat Mayo, right, talking him up. I know a few other prominent voices have stated that they think he's a pretty good pivot play. Tour Junkies, for example, and I agree, right? But I don't think that's going to make his ownership 20%. I don't think you're going to see that kind of bump when all the casuals, haven't seen him play for quite some time. All they're going to hear about on Golf Channel is that he had that rehab going on, that he's, coming back from that. And, a lot of those analysts on Golf Channel have said they don't know what to expect from Hideki. Hopefully that keeps the ownership low. And if he's going to be 3 times lower owned than a Scotty Scheffler, then it's just a clear pivot to me. I mean, he's lower owned than a Hadden too. So if you're looking to get ownership leverage there, you can pivot off of him if you want to. Tom Kim's also much higher owned than Hideki Matsuyama at this point, and he fits the golf course to a tee, right? It's wide open off the tee, doesn't have to worry about many hazards, which he can get a little bit, sketchy off the tee, we'll say, Hideki Matsuyama. He can lean into that long iron play. He's maybe the best long iron player in the world. And then the putter on bent grass, it's not the best, but he got it done here last year, made a bunch of those bender putts, had a bunch of highlights here at the AT&T Byron Nelson. And relative, what was his finish last year? 3rd, right? 39th the first time around. It's pretty good track record around here. I'm liking what I'm seeing. So I'm playing him. You definitely have to worry about the neck, the back. It's the week before a major championship, so he's obviously testing it to see if he can give it a full go. But if the rehab worked, if he's feeling great, I mean, he was playing fantastic before he came off the injury reserve, right? He was gaining across all 4 categories. he could win this golf tournament. So I'm not, taking him in all of my lineups, not playing him at 50% plus of my lineups, but at just 13.9%, if I use him in 30%, you're getting that kind of leverage to the field you're looking for. So I think he's the kind of pivot you should consider if you're not playing a Scottie Scheffler up top. Which again, if you want to play Scottie Scheffler, it's fine, right? But if you're going to take pivots, you can probably take like three or even four of them, priced $9,000 and above. And lastly, we've got Aaron Wise, who kind of like Hideki, a lot of question marks, right? That's why the ownership is going to be low. But we know long term that Aaron Wise, if we were just pricing this based on a 100-round baseline, would probably be $9,500. He'd probably be right up there with a Jason Day. Especially the longer term you're looking on Aaron Wise, the better and better his metrics are going to look to us. The putter had started to come around. Bentgrass is by far his best putting surface for his career, and had the mental health break, right? Told us that he needed to take some time off. He was missing a bunch of cuts in a row. We look at the last 36 rounds. They don't look great for Aaron Wise. You can see losing in the ball striking categories almost makes no sense, right? He's one of the best ball strikers in the world. He's not known for the putter, but was gaining 0.7 strokes per round. So everything was kind of off for Aaron Wise. So like for him taking a break, I think that's good for him. I don't know his situation. I don't know if he's feeling a lot better this week than he was before mentally. I have no idea how the swing looks, but what I know is that for the last 2-3 seasons on the PGA Tour, Aaron Wise is one of the best players in this field. And if you're going to give me a single-digit owned Aaron Wise after an extended break where he could have been working on anything, right? Obviously, I'm sure he was taking time away to try and, recuperate mentally, but I'm sure he was also probably hitting some golf balls, working on a few things, and maybe he's feeling great. He comes out and he returns to the Aaron Wise ball striker that we know, who's a top 5 player in this field. And getting a top 5 player in this field at $8,300 and single-digit ownership, even if it's a low percentage outcome, is just something that I cannot pass up. I mean, when you say that he's half as owned as a Steven Yeager, I mean, it's ridiculous when you look at their 100-round baselines. Aaron Wise is just a much better player than everyone else around him. So I'll be getting there. It's super risky, kind of like a Hideki Matsuyama. But when you're playing in these large field contests, mixing in somebody like Hideki or somebody like an Aaron Wise is how you get to the top of leaderboards, right? How you actually move up the leaderboards when these sort of players hit. Scottie Scheffler, right? Nothing against him. I think he's got the highest hit rate of anyone in this field. You're not going to be unique, right? You're going to have to mix in, let's say if you use a Scottie this week, in Aaron Wise, right? You're going to have to find a spot to leverage yourself against the field. So, if you're going to take chalky pieces, like I'm playing Terrell Hatton this week, we'll talk about it later. I like Tom Kim. I like a few other guys here that are getting some ownership. I'm going to have to force feed myself some of these sleeper plays, whether it's an Aaron Wise, whether it's a few other low-owned plays here in the 7K range. There's plenty to choose from to make sure that for these large field contests, and those are the contests that I specialize in, and I can actually get to the top end of the leaderboard. So worth noting on that end, Aaron Wise, Hideki Matsuyama, the exact. Alrighty, guys, that is all I've got for the fades and sleepers. Before you hop on out of here, go ahead and smash that like button, but also go ahead and let me know who you're fading this week. Maybe one of those high-owned plays towards the top of the board that you're maybe not as sold on as everyone else. And then go ahead and let me know one of your top sleeper picks. I would love to hear from you guys. I appreciate all the support on the channel here as per usual. We'll be doing our weekly DFS live stream tonight. So remember, 7 p.m. Eastern time, stopping by with all the questions that you have, whether it's for outright betting, DFS, or over there for props on Prize Picks or Underdog. More than willing to go through those questions, and we'll make sure we're ready to rock and roll in a profit here for the Byron Nelson. So should be a fun week. We've got one more weekend until the PGA Championship, which of course, year's second major is going to be an absolute fireworks fest. Can't wait for it. But this week we've got unfinished business, right? Some GPPs to take down, some money to try and hopefully add to our pockets, and I couldn't be more excited to do so. So I'll see you guys later on for the stream. Thank you guys for all the support, and let's go out there and cash a few contests.